Brooke at Star Oracles, talking today about Rahu transiting over natal sun. And this is a significant one, as you might expect. Maybe not in the way you think it will be, but we will find out. We all go through life really trying to build up this character or this person we think we ought to be, with our different titles and the personality traits that we really attach to and try to develop, and the accomplishments that we that we obtain in life. And if there's any transit that's going to come and kind of try to knock all that over and make you really look at yourself in a new way and maybe find a new way of identifying yourself, it's this transit. So for that reason, it can be a very painful transit because nobody wants to go through periods of being uncomfortable with themselves or having things that we really, really strongly identify with end or come crashing down or fail us. Yeah, it's fun times when Rahu transits your sun. One thing I want to start with this transit is the change in status that so often occurs when it's taking place. And one form of status that I think people often overlook, but if you analyze this transit, you'll be reminded of just how important or significant marital status is when it comes to something we identify with and its impact on our life. So I will use some celebrity examples, even though I've seen this many times in the people I know or clients. But so Meghan Markle, when she married Prince Harry, she had Rahu transiting her sun. And obviously that marriage was a big change in her status, but not only that, a big change in her identity. She quit her career. She was no longer an actress and having to step into this whole new world that was completely different to her. And so, I'm kind of finding examples of status changes, but I hope you can also see how these can create identity crises or just really like put a focus on who you are in a way that can also be critical. So most people know that she was highly criticized during that time by the press and in all kinds of ways. And so that was a challenging time for her and her identity. Kim Kardashian, when she married Kanye West, she had Rahu transiting her sun. And of course she was married numerous times, but we can see that Kanye was by far the most prolific, influential, famous partner that she had. And so when she married him, she became, Kim West, and even changed some of her, brand names to reflect that new last name of hers. So it was a much more significant status change for her. I think that was also the year she kind of released that break the internet image with Paper Magazine of her popping the champagne bottle and it going into the glass that was resting on her butt. And so that was kind of a big event for her. She has lots of big events, but that was a big kind of like Rahu on sun moment. And I kind of wish we knew how she was feeling behind the scenes of that, because she could have been very self-conscious about that photo shoot. We don't know. There could have been a lot of other things happening in her life that maybe made her release that photo shoot from a place of needing attention or overcompensating for something. But overall, you know, outwardly, that was like a big year for her and a change in her status. I just wish we knew a little bit more of how she was feeling at the time. Transits from the moon would, if I checked the transits to her moon, I would be able to glean that insight. And if you're wondering how a person's going to feel emotionally during this transit, you can look at transits from the moon, Gokara from the moon. Another status change that has to do with marriage would be Kanye West. When they got divorced, I'm not sure who filed. I think it was Kim. Maybe they did it together. But when they got a divorce, Rahu was transiting Kanye's son. So, like, to the degree. So that was a big change for him. And I think that was also a time when the publicity for him was, you know, he's always been controversial, but it was definitely leaning far more negative. I think his mental health really crashed after that divorce, and many other events occurred that where he was attacked, you know, and I'm sure that his self-esteem and his image certainly suffered during that time period. What else was I going to say? You know, parents, anyone who has kids, sometimes this transit will occur at a time when the kids move out, or you're not spending as much time with your children because of, you know, a separation. Kanye wasn't seeing his kids as much. So there you have an identity that the identity of being a parent is a very strong one. And it's one that when it gets taken away from you really shakes up your identity. So that's another thing that could have been happening in his life that was making him having to re-identify himself. Continuing on with this discussion of a change in status, I want to talk about one that I think is kind of cool and important, which is both Obama and Trump, when they left office, they had Rahu transiting their son. And they were actually the only politicians I looked at, or presidents. I could probably look at a bunch more and see a similar thing occurring. But what's cool to think about this, like the fact that they both went through it, is that Obama had served 2 terms. And, you know, everyone has their different political opinions, but most would say he managed to he had a more successful presidency because he did get reelected. Whereas Trump was a more controversial figure, and when he was leaving office, it was due to losing an election instead of just running out of time. So I just want to show that more than the event that's happening, and whether it's, you know, under more positive circumstances or negative, this transit is really about a change in your identity, and status also gets wrapped up into it. So for both of these men, they were losing the title of president and going through that identity shift of like, well, I was the president for this many years and now I'm not. Like, what does my life look like now? Now that I don't have that title, I don't have that status, what am I going to do with myself? How am I going to live, you know, the rest of my life with that being, you know, taken away? And, you know, for Trump, it was more obviously a very hard time for his ego and his self-esteem, because he did lose an election, and because there were so many attacks on who he is. So he had to bear all that, and certainly his self-esteem and ego was affected. And, you know, for Obama, who, like, I don't know as much about, what he may have been going through. Perhaps he was reflecting more about what he didn't accomplish, or maybe he had been hard on himself. But either way, he definitely had to adjust to a new identity, losing when his presidency ended. So, what if you're not a president of the United States and you're not Kanye West? So, the things that'll happen during this transit for a typical person is that situations or people or circumstances will really bring to the surface the shadow part of yourself, because Rahu is a shadowy figure. It's a point that shows us where we don't have clarity. And if you've ever witnessed an eclipse, that's really the only time you get to see Rahu, Ketu. Like, you get to see them. And when you look at an eclipse, like a solar eclipse, you're seeing the moon block out the light from the sun. And so symbolically, what that shows is how the mind, which is the moon, the mind and how we're interacting in this world around us, is blocking out the light that comes from our true selves, which is, infinite and not attached to our life here on earth. So when we go through this Rahu on Sun transit, you really get a taste for the ways that the things that you perceive about yourself and the things that your ego attaches to is all like the falseness of it, the limitations of it. And upon first experiencing that, it is hard on your self-esteem. It's confusing to the person you think you are and how you identify with yourself. And it can really happen in some ways that are very painful. People can be really hard on you. Your partner or somebody close to you, like somebody who you actually care about, maybe a parent or a child, can really bring awareness into the things about you that are, maybe you've been hiding it from yourself or you haven't wanted to face it, but just something that, your shadow side. And it's meant to be worked through, of course. And if you try to fight against it or you try to ignore it, it's just, it can wreck your life, really. You have to take an approach of or a mindset of humility. You have to try to cultivate that true humility during this transit that is compassionate for your flaws, but and through that compassion you're able to be more compassionate and understanding of other people's flaws. I mean, that's a real thing to gain from this period of time. Because if you get through this transit doing the work, you can actually gain real confidence that doesn't depend on your titles or the validation from other people or how well you're doing at the tasks that you identify with, because all of that has nothing to do with who you really are and what your real value is. So, lean into that. If this transit shows up in your life and all the things that you wanted to be good at, all the things that you thought made you somehow or gets taken away from you, there's an opportunity to have like a radical shift in your own self-esteem that'll be based on something more stable than just like these external things that come in and out of our lives. And during this transit, you could feel things like guilt, shame, profound sense of failure. You could feel like there could be situations that just make you feel like your whole person is being attacked if it's like a more extreme or difficult transit, depending on some of the other things that are happening. But my advice is to cultivate compassion for yourself. Be honest with yourself. You have to be honest. Learn to take it easy with yourself and other people as well. So just to summarize again, the things that can occur during this transit are changes in status, difficulty feeling good about yourself, and that can occur in a lot of different ways. Then learning an identity crisis, going through things can get taken away from you that you strongly identify with, and now you have to find yourself without that thing that you latched onto for so long. And that's the gist of it. So if I think of anything else, I will add it to my article on Rahu transiting Sun. And of course, I'm always interested on your opinions, or not your opinions, but your experience. Well, of course, I'm interested in opinions, but like experiences, your firsthand experiences with this transit. I didn't mention things could happen with the father, of course, something significant with the father. And, a person can have both things happening where they have a positive change in status and also have to look at themselves more closely, their self-esteem and their sense of self. So both things can happen together. Okay,